Hello, welcome to another episode of Life with Mock here on YouTube. So nice to see you. Although I am greeting you here in the salon of my turret of the little castle here in rural Wales, we're not spending very much time here today. Oh no, I'm taking you to London and I am taking you behind the scenes of the locked garden squares in the Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea. I'm going to take you first to Notting Hill. We're going to see the garden square where Hugh Grant and Julia Roberts broke into at night and then lay on the bench together. I'm going to take you behind the scenes and then we're going to go through Holland Park into Kensington and I'm going to take you to the gorgeous Edward Square, which is a square I used to hang out in when I was in my 20s. So it means so much to me and I'm really glad I can share it with you today. Once we're done in London, and as Oscar Wilde said, when a man is tired of London, he's tired of life. But there's so much more to do down here in the little castle. We're going to hot-foot it down here and I'm going to give you an update on my dahlias. Now, you may remember a couple of episodes ago, I took you into the greenhouse and I showed you potting up my dahlias. Well, now they're out. They're splendid, absolutely glorious in the garden. And I want to take you on a tour. So, do you have your packed lunch? Do you have your iPhone? And do you have your bus ticket? If the answer is yes, let's go to Notting Hill. Notting Hill was made world famous in 1999 when Hugh Grant spilt orange juice on Julia Roberts. For many people, it was the first time they had seen behind the locked gates of Notting Hill's garden squares. Now, whilst they're normally closed to the public, the London Open Garden Square weekend means that you can get to go and visit some of these glorious places, and you don't have to be a movie star to do it as well. So, actually, London is famously green. Nearly half of the many miles of parks and heaths and open spaces are in private hands. And one weekend a year, all of the squares in Notting Hill open up and share their beauty with the general public. I think I've said it before, my favourite sound in the world, that's gravel. I've lived in Notting Hill twice in my life, once in my early 20s and then in my late 40s. I was never fancy enough to live off or have a key to one of these glorious garden squares. Can you imagine stepping out of that gate onto this absolute paradise? Although Notting Hill is fabulously wealthy now, the multicoloured houses reflect its artesian past. It was filled with poor artists, and then after that, members of the Windrush generation who came from the Caribbean. Both populations brought their culture and their aesthetics to Notting Hill. So in the original film Notting Hill, Hugh Grant and Julia Roberts have to break into the garden square. We're lucky enough not to have to break in today. Let's go for our walk. I've heard people arguing that these garden squares should be open to all, but I think it's worth remembering many of the people living in central London don't have a garden themselves. So would you open your garden to someone else? I'm not sure I'd open it to the public. So why should they open theirs? I'm always mesmerised by the beautiful multicoloured houses in Notting Hill. These are Victorian houses, and the gardens were built between 1841 and 1960. So you've seen it in the film, and now you've seen it here. I'm not sure that I'm going to attempt to climb, but then, of course, today I don't have to. And it was fabulous to take you along with me. Now, let's continue on our journey and see if I can find a gorgeous square I want to show you It's called Edward Square. It's in Kensington, and I used to spend a lot of my 20s hanging out there. Between Notting Hill and Kensington is Holland Park, and that house there, right in front of you, belongs to Robbie Williams. Here we are, arrived in Kensington, just on the Earls Court Road, into Pembroke Square and Edward Square. We are here. This really is secret London, just off Ken High Street, and no one really knows about it unless you live there. This square was built by a Frenchman who was falsely rumoured to be an agent of Napoleon. It was built during the Napoleonic Wars. Come on, let's go in and have a look. So the square derives its name from William Edwards, who was the second Lord Kensington, and he owned the land as part of Holland Park Estate. However, the estate goes back even further. It was once part of the manor of Earls Court and was owned by Aubrey de Vere, who was given it by William the Conqueror. Is there anything better than a walk through roses? What a glorious way to spend a Sunday. Mind you, this is central London. It is just off Kensington High Street, and Piccadilly Circus is about a mile and a half away, and around the corner is the busy Cromwell Road. These garden squares are absolute perfection. So beautiful. Edward Square was built later than Rosmead Gardens between 1811 and 1820. It's a fine Georgian square. Many of the houses that peek into the square are listed, and it is listed by Historic England as a Grade 2 garden square. Some much needed solitude in busy central London. I haven't been in this garden square probably for about 30 years. I used to live just around the corner, and I would come to the summer parties here, and sometimes friends who had keys would lend one to me on a sunny day when they were out of town. And it's really quite magical to be back, reflecting on all that's happened over those 30 years, to the point where I'm here today, back again, happy and finding a little bit of peace in the city. And you know what struck me? Even in my 20s, I much preferred greenery to concrete. So it's probably quite odd to love garden squares in your 20s and love planting. It wasn't as fashionable or as popular as it is today. And I had a little roof terrace and I filled it with greenery just around the corner. And I've always loved the sound of birdsong in the garden square. It's a real privilege to come back today. And I think life has a way of planting you at the place where you're supposed to be. Just gorgeous. Just gorgeous. Hello. A little while ago, I shared my adventures in the greenhouse, planting all of my dahlias, all 42 of my dahlias. Hello from the greenhouse. I'm actually in early April, so I'm talking from the past, and I'm in the greenhouse this morning potting up my dahlias. Now, we have a risk of frost here in Wales until really the end of May. So if I put these dahlias out, they would probably be killed by the frost. So what I'm doing is I'm planting them up in the warmth of the greenhouse, and they will come on quite a few weeks earlier than they would do if I planted them outside. And then I'll be able to transfer them once I've hardened them off, taking them in and out of the greenhouse to make sure they get used to the colder weather outside. I'll plant them in the paddock, in amongst a beautiful wildflower meadow. And what I will have is a riot of colour all autumn. I cannot wait to see these beautiful dahlias in their magnificent glory in the paddock. And I will definitely share that with you. And what I find really odd is look at them. These disgusting sort of potato-like, almost alien-like things will become the most radiant, beautiful flowers. Just you wait. I can't wait to share it with you. And now it is midsummer and it is glorious in the garden and they are nearly all out. So I thought I would share with you an update of where my dahlias are and how beautiful they look at the moment. So come with me and let's have a wander through the garden of my little castle in Wales and check out all the dahlias. Whilst I had planned for the dahlias in the paddock, if you're observant, you'll see that it's actually just wild flowers. I ended up putting them over in a new topiary garden by the turret. They look spectacular. As I was filming this little section of the bees, I started to think about Edward Square in London and the bees all over the roses there. You can't get more of a contrast, a little castle in Wales and a garden square in central London. But these resilient little insects, gosh, they'll survive anywhere if they have our help. Well, thank you for joining me on today's episode. I hope you enjoyed going behind the normally locked private gates in Notting Hill and Kensington, and also sharing a little bit of my experience of living both in Notting Hill and Kensington throughout my 20s and 30s and 40s. Those places mean an awful lot to me, and I wanted to share them with you. And I hope you're excited about how gorgeous the garden is. There's always so much to do. And even when I was editing this video, I thought to myself, oh, there's a weed there. There's something needs doing there. Well, it's a journey and I'm going to take you on it with me. So thank you very much for coming to join me today. Remember, check out my Instagram as well, Life with Mock, or on TikTok. And don't forget to subscribe, press the alert, and I'll see you next time here on Life with Mock. Take care. Lots of love.